Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07. Thank you for checking out our morning extravaganza here. It's O'Connor and Company. You know, Julie, I filled in for Mark Levin on Friday, so we always get some new listeners checking out this morning show from all around the country. So we welcome you all. Thank you. I'm not quite as ranty in the mornings, right?
Ranty.
As we often say, nobody wants to wake up to Mark Levin. Even Mrs. Levin would rather take a break now and again. Can you imagine? You call these Cheerios? These aren't Cheerios. I want shredded wheat. That's right, I said it. Coming up at 6:35, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch on all the scandals unfolding before our very eyes. 7:05, Joe DeGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He's ready for this news cycle. 7:35 brings us Tim Hobert. He's the president of the American Veterans Center as we talk about next week's Memorial Day Parade here in D.C. And then at 8:05, Congressman Andy Harris. He's the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. You want a big, beautiful bill? You want a big tax cut? Well, Andy Harris is going to have a lot of influence over that vote and the process over the next several days. All right, that's coming up. That's Julie Gunlock, Grand Poobah at the Independent Women's Forum. I mean, Carrie Lucas wears the fez and the sash, but you're kicking butt over there at IWF as well. Longtime D.C. insider. Good morning, Julie.
Sure. Good morning. Don't call me Grand Poobah, ever.
It's my favorite title for people because I use that as a trick when I forget what their actual title is because DC is all about titles, and I forget sometimes.
When you call me the Grand Poobah, I feel like I have to do the wife thing. Are you calling me fat?
Oh no, that's not good at all. All right, I'll come up with something else. The Grand Dame, how's that?
There you go. The
Lady Grand Dame of Independent Women's Forum.
There you go.
So I do know these titles. Director of the FBI is friend of this program, Kash Patel. Assistant Director of the FBI is friend of this program, Dan Bongino. I think as the new Trump administration took power, if we can use that word, Kash Patel is the FBI Director, and then later in March, when it was announced that Dan Bongino would be the Assistant FBI Director, there was a lot of hope there that, okay, finally, all the things that we think the FBI hasn't really been doing, hasn't really been investigating, has been utilized as a political tool, all the things that we'll never get the truth about, maybe we will get the truth about those things. And so both the director and the assistant director, is it assistant or deputy director? I don't want to mistitle Dan.
I think deputy.
I feel bad. It's deputy. I apologize. I know that's a thing in D.C., and I apologize, Dan. Both the director and the deputy director sat with Maria Bartiromo for an exclusive interview, and there was much to unpack here. Let's start with this, the Russiagate. I mean, we're still wanting to know not only who did what, who knew what, who violated people's civil rights during the Russian collusion hoax nightmare that paralyzed the first Trump administration for the first 2 years under Robert Mueller's investigation and James Comey's ridiculous unconstitutional behavior. Who authorized those FISA warrants against Carter Page, an innocent man? They slimed Carter Page.
They still
called
do.
him a Russian. They still slime Carter Page.
Yes.
A Naval Academy graduate, a Navy intel officer. I don't think the guy's ever gotten a speeding ticket. They've never brought charges against the guy, but they fingered him as a Russian asset.
Nope, never an apology.
No apologies,
nothing.
Nothing. Who did it? And by the way, where's the accountability? One guy, one lawyer got fired. A jury acquitted him, and now he's making tons of bucks on K Street.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That's it.
So here's the question of Russiagate. Because, I mean, Dan Bongino wrote a book about Russiagate. Kash Patel was the lead attorney for Devin Nunes in the House Intelligence Committee when
cracked the case
of Russiagate.
Yes.
These two have forgotten more about Russiagate than any of us will ever know. So what's happening with that story? Cut 10.
You want it done quickly, we'll do it. And you know what'll happen? Just what happened last time. Those same Spygate collusion perpetrators sued the government, got money, got all this. You want that? We'll do it. We'll do it quickly and do it wrong.
But are you saying you found things that even you didn't know about? I mean, you were at the core of this.
Yes. I was the lead Russiagate investigator. for the House Intelligence Committee, and I've been on both your shows in a prior life talking about it. And I'm telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, you know, we're running a three-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
All right, so we found it. We're getting to it. We're doing it the right way. Are you good with that?
I'm so good with that. And honestly, it makes me feel like, boy, this waiting is going to be worth it.
I'm with you. But and by the way, just like Adam Schiff going on cable news saying, I've seen credible evidence that this, and of course it never happened. And we have brought that audio back over and over again. And so why are we believing Adam Schiff when the man has no I like Kash Patel. I have socialized with Kash Patel. I trust Kash Patel. He just said on international television, on Fox News, Fox Business, that he has seen the evidence of the wrongdoing at the FBI over the Russian investigation. We're going to hold him accountable for that. Mm-hmm. We want to see it. We are ready. We are waiting. We will give them time to do it the right way, as Dan said. We want to do it right. We're not going to rush this. We're not going to do what's happened before. Great. All right. Then Maria Bartiromo asked, why did they do this? Why would the FBI risk the reputation of the agency to get engaged in these kind of political shenanigans? And here's the answer from Dan Bongino.
I don't even understand why. Why did they do that? I mean, why put the FBI and its reputation at risk? What, it was just to win an election? Why?
Because they're weak. Because they're weak. I hate weak people. I can't stand it. They didn't have... we're on TV, so I already said BS once. But they didn't have the guts, the courage, or the character to do the right thing. They did the easy thing. Donald Trump became a convenient political football. They thought they could leverage. They thought they thought with the media on their side that they'd get away with it.
I have much to say about this, actually.
There's
in
two
fact,
parts
we're
of that. There's two parts.
Yeah,
of
there's
that
two
answer.
parts. You're right. There are two parts that need to be addressed. You're right, and we're going to carry this over. But the first thing is, if in fact FBI agents, especially people in authority, people in a decision-making power, I'm talking about McCabe, Andrew McCabe, Jim Comey, Christopher Wray, Peter Strzok, those people who made decisions, if they did what is being alleged and what has been alleged by Dan on this radio station and by Kash, and if they did those things, that's not weakness. That's corruption. That's criminal behavior. That is deliberate criminal behavior. That's not weakness. Now, if there are other FBI people who saw it, who knew it, and said nothing and stayed quiet, that could potentially be written off as weakness. But that's also corruption. I mean,
yes, but
go ahead.
No, I think Bongino probably is dealing with a different level of people we did not see, people who are now complaining, probably coming forward, probably revealing some things, because they said we know stuff now. So I think there probably is a sort of second layer of FBI agents that were weak, that probably admit it now, that probably were too afraid.
And didn't step up and say, hey, we shouldn't do that. Yeah.
And that's who I don't think he's talking about those sort of higher level Peter Strzok, McCabe, that kind of stuff.
Okay. I get that. And then and I'm going to extend that. There was another part of this, though, that I want to delve into, and we'll get to that. And a couple of other things. By the way, a question and answer about January 6th as well, and whether FBI undercover agents were involved in that. And a big blockbuster revelation about Jeffrey Epstein. We'll get to all that in a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Can you tell I'm excited about the Naval Academy graduation this Friday with Vice President J.D. Vance? I've just had to endure 2 years in a row of Secretary Austin's speeches. And Secretary Austin was fine. He rose to the occasion. He didn't make it political. He was fine. But J.D. Vance, retired Marine, and now vice president. And you know my man crush on Vance.
Right.
I am very much looking forward to his speech this Friday in Annapolis. All right, back to the interview, and I commend it to all of you to watch the entire thing in its entirety. Of course, we can't do that here, so we're just playing some cuts here. Let's listen to this one more time. Dan Bongino asked why the FBI put its reputation at risk with Russian collusion. Listen.
I don't even understand why. Why did they do that? I mean, why put the FBI and its reputation at risk? What, it was just to win an election? Why?
Because they're weak. Because they're weak. I hate weak people. I can't stand it. They didn't have.
There it is. That's the other one I wanted to touch on real fast. And listen, Dan knows the media, so he's pretty prepped for an interview like this. And I want to, knowing Dan and having known him for 13 years now, I think, I want to assume that Dan meant he hates weakness in a position of authority, like he's talking about here with FBI agents.
Right.
Not people in general, right? So like if you're an FBI agent, you wear the badge, you carry a gun, you're a person in authority, and you show weakness, that is a problem.
Yes. But
in general, the FBI needs to protect weak people. Not everybody can be strong. Not the whole point of an FBI, the whole point of law enforcement is some people in this country are weak. They need protection from the bad guys. So when Dan says, I hate weak people, I'm quite sure he didn't mean that. But it sends it. Yes, again, I just want clarity sometimes when statements like this are made, because it's a powerful statement, but it could be interpreted the wrong way.
Again, I do think probably Cash and Bongino at this point are dealing with a mid-level FBI people that sort of worked for and witnessed some of the shenanigans going on at the FBI. I know shenanigans is not an appropriate word, since what they did was horrible,
corruption.
illegal, and corrupt.
Yeah.
But I think probably there were legion of people in the FBI building who saw what was happening, were uncomfortable, and felt either intimidated or they didn't want to hurt their careers. And that is a weakness. That is a real problem in Washington, D.C.
It's also incredibly understandable, considering it's like, listen, you're one of those guys. It's like, they're going after the president of the United States.
I get
here.
It.
I don't
yes.
stand a chance. Little pee on me. Right?
Yeah, I get.
I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it is. But I understand why people would think that way.
Yeah, and I think probably Bongino is appalled by these people who had some level of authority, or could have been a whistleblower, or who could have gone to Congress, had the protections of a whistleblower, and chose not to, or could have leaked to the whatever. There were a lot of people. There's a lot of people in this town who would have listened, and nobody came forward. And so I think he's probably disgusted with some of the people at the FBI.
Especially when innocent people were being abused, when their civil rights were being violated, and they were going to jail. All right, cut 13, the question of Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier in the week, Kash Patel was under questioning of the Senate Judiciary Committee and was asked about Jeffrey Epstein. He said, based on the evidence I've seen, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. And that surprised a lot of people. Here's more information there, cut 13.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Now, this raised a lot of eyebrows because, well, frankly, both those guys for the last couple of years have said there's no way Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Right. I'm paraphrasing, but, I will paraphrase this. It's pretty clear that, if you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, then you're crazy. But they've now seen the evidence, and they believe that he did. So either we were all misinterpreting what seemed rather obvious based on all of the things that were involved in the broken cameras and the guards and
the falling asleep. Yeah, I mean,
and Hillary Clinton rushing out the back door when it happened. No, I don't think that's actual evidence.
All we can say is, look, they're seeing a lot more than they saw before. I trust them. I do. I think that these are, good men finally in charge of the FBI. I trust them. I think they've seen more. They probably, like you said, seen the whole file. So I'll leave it at that. But it does not make the case any less weird and suspect.
Transparency would be awesome. And if they saw things in a file that haven't been made public that led many reasonable people to assume that there's something fishy there, maybe they should release all of that so that there's no question. Or is it just, hey, Cash and Dan have seen it and we trust them, so that's it? I don't know. We'll ask Tom Fitton, though, at 6:35, Judicial Watch, 6:24 now.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. We have a lot to cover. He'll tell us about the Hur-Biden audio tapes, Supreme Court's temporary block on deportation, and Comey and his weird seashells. Keep it here. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37 now. Busy Monday morning. There's so much to get to. I keep saying that. We should just get to it. Real fast, 7:05, Joe DeGeneva on this insane news cycle. 7:35, Tim Hobert, president of American Veterans Center on Memorial Day. And then 8:05, Representative Andy Harris on the big, beautiful bill, the tax cut. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry and Julie. And Larry, look who's here. It's our friend. I called you Larry. Julie, look who's here. It's our friend Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. Good morning, Tom. Good to talk with you.
Good morning, the two Larrys.
Yeah. Oh, God, what a nightmare. You are joining us just as we were discussing the extraordinary interview between FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino yesterday. There's one item that we didn't get to, but we held it for you because we figured you'd want to comment on it. Here they are talking about what they've learned with regard to the events of January 6th.
Were there FBI agents undercover egging people on?
Like I said, that answer is coming, and it's on its way to Congress.
You're about to... I saw it. I saw the portfolio of information.
Wow.
We dug far and wide to find it. And I'm pretty sure now we have a conclusive, definitive answer. But you and the public are going to have it. You're going to see it in writing over to Capitol Hill. But I just want to be sure we're clear, having been an agent and a police officer. There is a difference between an agent. I know you know this. I don't mean to sound ridiculous. An agent, meaning a trained GS 1811 federal agent, and a source or an asset. There's a difference. So when you see the material, which I promise you is coming, again, I'm not asking you to trust us. I know it's coming because I saw it yesterday.
All right. So decipher that for me, will you, Tom Fitton, from your perspective, because you followed this story very acutely.
Well, it seems to me Dan and Cash are further confirming what's been previously reported, that there were assets at the Capitol on January 6th, and they're suggesting they were involved in a more active manner than the Inspector General did in releasing and hiding that information until after the election. I don't know why they're being coy about what they found. Is this a state secret? You know, I was a bit frustrated about the interview. Don't worry, we'll tell you everything we already know in 2 weeks. Again, why are they hiding? And they also suggest that there were false statements later in that same section by Biden officials about the activities of FBI assets or confidential sources and who knew what and when. And is there a criminal investigation of those false statements? I don't know. You know, what I heard from that interview generally is they're not doing a criminal investigation of anything that we care about. I haven't seen anything that they're pursuing in this area in terms of lawfare against Trump. They ruled out anything related to the Obama era and really Trump era warfare or lawfare against Trump by suggesting statute of limitations have passed, while then suggesting they just found new evidence. I don't know what all that means. It just means we're going to get some good FOIA responses, which is good, and there is a measure of accountability there. But we're still going to have the FBI that did what they did to Trump last year, and I don't see any cuts or any efforts to curtail that agency institutionally.
Well, Deputy Director Bongino did say with regard to Russian collusion, and Lord knows, Dan knows, I said earlier, Dan and Cash probably, sorry for referring to them by their first names, but we know these guys. Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have forgotten more about the Russian collusion scandal than most people will know, except for you, Tom Fitton. He said, we want to do this the right way. Does that suggest to you that, there is a very real criminal investigation going on here? It's just that it's going to be very deliberate, unlike the haphazard, slapshot political approach that their predecessors took? Or are you hearing something with your trained ear that suggests, no, whatever they are doing, whether they're doing it the right way and dotting every I and crossing the T, it's still not actually a criminal investigation?
Yes, I heard the second part. And
okay.
And what Dan said, you can do it quick or you can do it right, but you can't do it both ways. You can't have it both. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's not true. We can quickly fire most of the FBI. We can quickly use the USAID approach and get rid of most of those agents and personnel, or as others have said, and I've said, shatter and scatter the FBI's authorities and necessary functions to other agencies. I just hear a lot of excuses here, and they don't want to release FOIA records quickly, he suggests, because the last administration, the Biden administration, gave millions of dollars to Page and Strzok in a way that was seemingly corrupt, because they disclosed to the public their relationship and other information about them that exposed the corruption behind the targeting of Trump. This is, to me, confused. And they say there's a lot of other things they're working on, and I guess those are going to take a priority over the accountability that we want for the American people, which is fine, but it's not what I think people were expecting.
Tom, they also seem to have sort of closed the book on the Epstein death. What were your thoughts on that? They basically said, nope, it was a suicide, moving on.
Yeah, they looked at the file. I'm not aware of any other investigation of looking at the file. I mean, there are reasonable questions about the death, and I don't know if they're aware of them. But I forget the name of the forensic investigator who did a separate investigation of this, and he found, there was clear indications that it was a homicide. But they looked at the file that's already there that no one else has seen, evidently. We sued for them. We haven't gotten the records. And they've told us that there's no need for additional investigation. So there you have it.
You sound,
yeah,
we know you pretty well, and we can tell from your tone that you sound a little disheartened here.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Look, now to be fair to them, they do have a lot to do. So they probably see current activities and crimes requiring their attention, and they want to do it. But I think their approach to protecting the FBI, I think, is misplaced, and they may not be able to do it, given the situations they're in. They're being asked to run an agency, and they're not going to voluntarily dismantle it unless they're told to do so. And maybe President Trump needs to tell them to dismantle the agency. Maybe Pam Bondi needs to be told to do a criminal investigation that's serious and broad, as opposed to, we can't do it too quickly because we want to do it right, which is, to me, a signal that there's not much being done at all.
We'd be, in our final moments here, Tom, we'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate your clients, the family of Ashley Babbitt, and commend you and Judicial Watch for your work representing them, because it appears as though you have a settlement with the federal government over her wrongful death. Is there anything you can expand on that for us?
Yeah, we have a settlement in principle, and hopefully, we will be able to finalize it soon. It's taking longer than we all want to finalize it, but there are some technical issues that have to be dealt with. But it's going to be settled, there's no doubt. In my mind, as I said, we've agreed to in principle, and it's a remarkable victory for the family. It's not a perfect victory, but it certainly blows out of the water the narrative about January 6th. Ashley was the only homicide victim on January 6th. That we know.
I say it all the time, no matter who's in charge of the House and the Senate, and even who's in charge of the White House or the Justice Department or the FBI, ultimately the work that Judicial Watch and Tom Fitton does continues to transcend those various political maneuvers. We love what you do, Tom, and thank you for, certainly in the Ashley Babbitt case, for getting those results amongst all the other lists of your accomplishments. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Making sense of your world.
Thanks for taking my call.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Greatly appreciated.
Making sense of the news.
All right, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to circle back to all the lies we've learned about the Biden presidency. Some we just learned about this weekend. Joe DeGeneva is ready. I hope you are.